everyone, and welcome back. So we have reached the end of the Idol, and this finale just felt like there were other episodes missing. And I thought it was super telling that the Vanity Fair article was about Tedros, or should I say Tetro? And I guess he was always the star. And I think for us to really believe that Joss was this femme fatale, we honestly needed more episodes. There's so much character development that happens that we just don't see. Like, was she always this manipulative, or was she only triggered when she found out that she was lured to this club by Dyanne? Because are we to believe that Jocelyn is so fake that even when she called out for her mother in episode 2, that wasn't real? And that scene with the new hairbrush, I don't think Jocelyn was lying about her mother's abuse, because if that whole thing is a lie, then that just makes her irredeemable. And I'm not really sure what the point of that would have been, but maybe this new hairbrush was to signal a new cycle of abuse, this time one that she would be more in control of. And there are just so many inconsistencies with her character, like the Rob storyline. We did not really need it. Why was she shedding a fake tear for some guy that she ghosted? It would be one thing if they were in a relationship or they were in contact, but it just seemed like she used him for like a booty call, and then all of a sudden seemed super concerned when she found out that Tetro, framed him for a crime he didn't commit. Was really kind of underdeveloped, and I felt Joss became so unlikable and reached Tetro levels of cringe. Like that lap dance, I'm not sure how y'all felt, but I was just like, somebody turned this off. Like we did all this for some mid music, for some like okay music. And what's worse, I think, is they tried to get us to feel bad for Tedros. Like, I think if the Vanity Fair article exposed Jocelyn as being manipulative or gave us some new insight, or exposed both of them and they both went down together and there was no tour, like that would have been kind of crazy. But why on earth would a publication like Vanity Fair care about Tedros? Like he never took much to destroy. Like Tedros is not Ike Turner. He's not that type of person that required a Vanity Fair expose. Like, it wouldn't have taken much to destroy this nobody. Like, he's a punk. So the way that they're perceiving this guy and the way that he actually is, like, it just doesn't make any, there's no logic here. Like, he's not that important. Like, if they wanted to get to him, they could have done a lot less, right? And so they just would never dedicate that much time and energy to one man unless there was something else in it for them, which would be exposing Jocelyn as maybe not this damsel in distress that she wants everyone to believe. And this show, there's so many potential storylines here. Again, 5 episodes. I think it just hid behind so many distractions, and it kind of overwhelmed itself. We did not need the Dyanne storyline. I mean, she served her purpose when she brought Jocelyn to the club. And it would have been more interesting if she recruited Dyanne to choreograph for her tour. Because at the end of the day, the song that Dyanne was signed for, Jocelyn didn't really want. And so it didn't seem that deep to kind of ruin her career like that, especially considering that this label was ready to sign all these random people overnight. On top of that, Dyanne shot the music video. So they're just gonna scrap all that? I mean, that just seemed unnecessary. And again, that's a whole other plot that we didn't really get to develop. I think ultimately the problem with this show lies in Tedros' character. I mean, everything about this episode, it just felt like he was being put through a test. And Jocelyn was trying to see how badly did this man want to be around her. And it seemed like he was willing to do anything and everything for her. And he is just so intolerable. Even if we wanted to feel bad for him, it's almost impossible. I don't know if that has to do with the Weeknd's acting or just the fact that we just don't really get enough time with these people to care either way. I mean, the good thing about this episode is that you had more characters. Like, we finally got some supporting characters. I thought the conversation that Haim had with Tedros, I mean, he did more acting in those few minutes than Tedros did this entire season. Like, Tedros was looking at him like, damn, like, you really delivered those lines. And they managed to really kind of do their thing, because there were some, I mean, this script is just not scripting. Like, when that one security guard was like, your suit is blinding me, I was like, I'm gonna turn this off. Like, what are, like, get it? Blinding lights, referring to the Weeknd. I was like, excuse me, like, we get it. It's the Weeknd show. You don't have to keep making references to it. I like Eli Roth as Andrew. I felt like he really earned his pay. He somehow made this very cringe character believable. And I felt like he was the only person that was having realistic reactions to what they were witnessing. Nikki also did a good job as this executive slimeball. Like, she's so icky, and she's so, like, she's willing to do anything as long as it gets her what she wants. Like, she doesn't really care about anything. Leah's character was wasted. It was so weird that Josh just didn't even care that she left. It's like, okay, like, she deserved better. You know, like, Leah and Destiny, like, it would have been interesting if at the end, when Destiny was talking to Tedros, Leah was there too, because she was as loyal to Jocelyn as anybody. So for her to leave and for Jocelyn not even to try to get her back just felt kind of strange. The finale, somehow Jocelyn manages to save her tour, and we find out what she's really like. And I never ever believed that Jocelyn was this dumb blonde, but I did think Tedros was. And when she brought Tedros on stage with her to introduce him to her family, I think that was the point of the show. It didn't really do a good job of fleshing it out, but no amount of attention will ever measure up to fame and fortune and a stadium full of people. You know, like, the way that Tedros' crew just became Jocelyn's crew overnight. Like, Tedros, he's kind of a terrible pimp. Like, that's the thing. How is he able to identify these people? How is he able to develop their talent? Like, we never really got any insight to that. Like, why are they so talented? Like, what is he doing that's making them so talented? Because finding these people is not enough, right? Like, he would have to develop them. And I think this whole, let me introduce you to my family, the way that people latch on to famous people is interesting, because the proximity to fame can actually be just as addictive. And that's why Xander is still around. Like, the fact that Xander just didn't escape after what happened to him the last episode, it makes sense. Because at the end of the day, this is as close as he's ever going to get to stardom. And Jocelyn, she does actually have the power to make them a star, but it's kind of a false promise, because she would never surround herself with people who have the potential to outshine her. And she's very good at keeping people in check. And so Tedros' crew was useful to her insofar as saving her tour, because that thing was about to be canceled. I thought this lead up to the end, like, okay, so she gets her tour, so what's the point of Tedros? You know, and I never really believed that he was gone forever, because if she really wanted him out of her life, the episode would have started and he would have been gone. Instead, right from the beginning, it just felt like she wanted to see how much she could take, right? So the episode starts, Joss is singing, she looks refreshed, she looks revitalized. Tedros or whatever is looking like how he looks. And he is just trying to wrap his mind around, how did he get here? You know, he went from feeling like he was in control of this house to basically being kicked out. And he served his purpose, and she let him know, right? She was like, you may leave. She doesn't force him out. She just tells him to leave. And so it doesn't really create the tension that I would have liked. Like, if you're done with him, done with him. Like, show him the door. Like, if she kicked him out and he went over to Vanity Fair and started spilling the tea, or, you know what I mean? Like, that would have been more believable. This kind of like, okay, you want to take me down? I'm going to take you down too. And so his whole crew just totally switched sides. Chloe spilled all the details to Jocelyn. She's totally loyal to her. She she has switched sides, and listening to Jocelyn tell the story of how they met. I mean, Tedros honestly does come off as an obsessed fan who has been manifesting this for years, right? He does come off as a creep that used his circle to basically meet Jocelyn. Like, I guess that was his end goal, to be near her. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I felt bad when she called Dyanne a random backup dancer. Like, that was kind of harsh. I mean, she was still a really great dancer, and she did introduce you to the quote-unquote love of your life. So, I don't know, like, it just doesn't, like, the animosity that she has for Dyanne just seems a bit much. So, Jocelyn is trying to scold him, but at the same time, she's under pressure because she has this one meeting to basically prove to these people that she's not insane. And the way she kind of rounds up his crew, like, as if he doesn't exist. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I know this was supposed to be serious, but I was just laughing. I mean, he was just sitting there with his drink. He just looked a mess. I was like, sir, get into the shower. Like, it's gonna be okay. And at first, Joss announces that her opening acts will be Chloe, basically everybody but Xander. And the only reason she decided to include Xander is because I think she felt that he was leaning towards Tedros, and she wanted to kind of secure his loyalty. And that whole meeting with the music executives, that scene did not hit as hard as they would have liked. And one of the biggest problems with the show is that they don't use their time very well. Like, a lot of these episodes could have just been one episode. Like, episodes 1 and 2 could have been one, 2 and 3 could have been one, 4 and 5, like, they kind of drag things out, and it doesn't really do anything. And so this meeting with the music executives, the good thing was that we had some solid actors. I loved Andrew's reaction. Like, the minute they started greeting him at the door and these kind of one-liners, things coming out of Andrew's mouth were so funny, right? His observations, he's like, be serious. This looks like, Charles Manson shit. Like, are we supposed to green light a tour for this person? Like, and so he added some much needed energy. And this whole audition, I mean, it really felt like we were watching American Idol. And I understand that they're talented, but I don't think they're this talented as to be sitting there blindsided and being like, oh my God, like, these are music executives. Like, they see talented people all the time. So, it's one thing if they entered the room and they were met with this choreographed routine. Like, that would have been crazy. And Jocelyn kind of gets to the point, right? Like, Jocelyn starts singing and they kind of choreographed something that would actually amaze them. But watching their reaction as one singer, then the next, and the next, and the next, like, you could tell it was forced. I mean, shout out to Nikki, who was really trying to seem super into it. Like, she looked like she was having the time of her life. And I didn't really buy it, but she was doing a good job trying to sell it and have fun with it. Like, it just felt like a take that needed cuts. And the one thing I noticed about the scene is the fact that it seems like there's a lot of divide. For example, Destiny and Haim are kind of one team, and Nikki is kind of off on her own. And I would have loved this to develop. Like, I would have loved to see the behind the scenes. I would have loved to know, like, why these rifts exist. And this conversation with Nikki and Tedros, like, that was so awkward. Like, the fact that Nikki was like, yo, I know that this was all you. And again, no one is doubting that Tedros has great taste in music. No one is doubting that he's able to scout for really talented people. But Nikki can do that too. You have a whole studio available to you. Like, the fact that she was talking to this man like she cared about him, and at the end of the episode she was just laughing at his demise, I was like, how fake are you? Like, these people are unique, but they're not that unique that this woman would be working with a man that is just totally out of his mind. And so they're going and going, and poor Andrew is sitting there wondering, like, what are we even watching? Why is this going on? And the banter on the couch, again, they were able to deliver these otherwise cringe lines really well. And the only reason that Andrew was convinced at the end was because of this slap dance. And I just died. Like, Tedros was watching it as well. And his face was like, damn, finally someone worse than me. And I don't know how y'all felt about her dance. Like, I don't think it was that bad, but everything about the show is just, it was fine. The music is okay. Like, did we need to go through all this trauma for that song? Like, that's kind of what I'm asking myself. Like, okay, World Class Sinner, it was okay. I don't really see a difference between World Class Sinner and some of these songs she's now producing with Tedros. Like, they're all more or less on the same level. Maybe some are slightly better, but they're not like outstanding. The whole time this weird audition thing is going on, Tedros is trying to apologize to Jocelyn. He's groveling. And it's not until Jocelyn finds out that Rob was accused of assault that she tells Haim to basically get this man out of here, pay him what he wants, and get out. And the whole pay him what he wants, like, that was never gonna work, because a guy like Tedros, like, let's just say you pay him, what's stopping him from not coming back? Like, it wasn't really well thought out. And this conversation between Haim and Tedros, like, that was a really good scene. Haim ate him up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like, this whole Little Red Riding Hood. And what I got out of that conversation is that, again, I wonder, was Jocelyn always the hunter? Was she this natural huntress? Or did she only become the hunter after she realized that she was set up? And there's so many little moments in this episode. Like, there was a snippet while they were having this conversation of Jocelyn praying, but why was she praying? Like, maybe she's religious, but again, it just felt random. Was she praying for his demise? Like, I was like, all right. I think my biggest problem is there's always such a stark difference between the first half of these episodes and the last half. And so the episode randomly skips 6 weeks, and I guess the album is done. And they sold out a whole tour. And her whole look has changed, right? Like, she's wearing this white dress. She has this basic instinct look, like this Sharon Stone look. And I think the implication is that she's supposed to be in full control of everything from here on out. And, this is her house, right? And if you're let in, this is her house, and what she says goes. And this whole scene of, like, Nikki, Haim, and Andrew just standing around talking shit about Tedros, like, I died. Like, his rat tail precedes him. Like, they're like, oh, and they took his rat tail. So we find out that this Vanity Fair article came out and totally ruined this man's life. Again, why is he even a man whose life needs ruining? Like, he's already been exposed. He's been to jail. Like, who cares? But whatever the case, they're standing around, and I love how they were, like, complimenting him while at the same time just being like, we're so glad that he's gone. Like, they're literally laughing about destroying a nobody. The whole time they're talking about him, Tedros comes over, and I wonder what made him think that Jocelyn would leave, a backstage pass for him. And he tries his luck, and turns out there is a pass. And, he's basically he has nothing, right? He's totally at her mercy. So he's kind of coming to her, hat in hand. He's defeated, and rightfully so. Like, couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. And Destiny is right there to call him out. And Destiny's whole conversation about him, basically saying, I know what you are. I think what she was communicating was like, okay, you're not in control here. Like, I'm the pimp, right? Like, you're going to do what I say. She called him out for filth, and she kind of let him know his place, right? If he gets out of line, she's going to check him. And so the fact that Destiny was there and nobody in her team knew that Tedros was coming, I think says a lot about Jocelyn, because she doesn't actually trust a lot of people in her team. And Destiny she trusts her, and she feels like she has her back. Just before they go on stage, he doesn't really know how to act. He kind of just looks like he's waiting to be told what to do. And that's exactly what she wants from him. And this whole conversation about the brush, I'm not sure, like what that was supposed to suggest. Was she saying that I'm in charge of this new cycle of abuse that's about to start? Like, did he use the brush before she went on stage? Like, they brought back the brush for a reason. But one thing is for sure, like, he is never ever calling the shots again. And I really thought for a moment that when she called him on stage, that he was going to have a Carrie moment. Like, I really thought she might embarrass him or do something crazy. Like, I thought she would use him as a prop. But instead, she calls him the love of her life. And her team is horrified. People, again, this guy just had a Vanity Fair article. Your tour is sold out. And it's just not a good look. There's no benefit to exposing yourself this way, because for sure people are going to write articles about this. People are going to wonder why she brought this man back on stage. And I'm not sure how much this whole, like, I'm mourning my mother and I'm sad and I'm a victim in distress thing is going to really hold up. But of course we'll never know, because we'll never get another season. And so her team asks, like, how do we get rid of him? But he's not the issue, right? She's the issue. And so this tour starts and she is ready to go. And Tedros just looks at her like he can finally see her for who she really is. But at the same time, he's exposed for what he truly is. So there's just nothing likable about these two people. Again, like, this was a lot of trouble to go through for some mid-music. Like, it didn't seem like we needed to do all this, but I guess we did. So ultimately, the show, I'm not sure, I would love a show about the music industry. There's a lot of ideas that they just kind of failed to explore. Like, this episode just felt like they were trying to get it over with. Like, it just felt like they were pulling the plug and they just needed to air it. Whether or not this will be a cult hit in the future, I doubt it. Because nobody sets out to make a cult classic, right? Like, nobody sets out to make things that are bad. And when you kind of recenter or reshoot a whole show to center around, yourself, which is in this case The Weeknd, I mean, it does feel like a whole vanity project, and for that the story suffered. And I honestly think if they just took Tedros out, or if they replaced him with a more competent actor like Lakeith Stanfield, or I don't even know, like Kid Cudi, who knows, that might have made a difference. But he single-handedly just throws off the whole vibe. I mean, there were some scenes where I'm like, am I supposed to feel bad? And I was just laughing at him because he's so unsympathetic. And he doesn't, you already look at him and you don't like him, and then you find things out about him and you still don't like him. And then Jocelyn we don't like, and poor Leah. Like, you guys let me know what you think, but I don't know, man. Like, this show is just, it's, I mean, if they want to release the previous edits, I would love to watch, but short of that, I mean, there you have it.